everyone, and welcome to the Ion Can podcast, your home on the Star Wars Underworld podcast network for in-depth discussion on lore, the High Republic, and the whole canon of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Joel, and I'm coming to you live from Star Wars Underworld, Orange County. Once again, Matthew has taken off for vacation, but he'll hopefully be back next month. All right, folks. A long time ago, in an era known as the 1990s, there Star Wars told the great legends and tales of the Jedi. That's right, folks. We're back to talking more about Tales of the Jedi. To look back on this great saga of comics, I'm joined by my good friend, Redleader Antilles. How you doing?
Good. Always like talking about this stuff. Sorry to hear that Matthew fell into that ruin and it took off as a ship and he's now lost in space with a bunch of school children. But, I'm sure he's doing well.
Yep. I'm sure he's fine. He'll be back soon. Sure. No, I'm sure he'll have plenty of shenanigans. Although you might hear transmission from him on Wednesday because we will have Tractor Beam with Vader number 49. And maybe a High Republic issue if he gets it. There was some shipping and stuff going on, as we do, of course. And of course, you can follow us at the On Canon Pod, of course, as always. And that should be it for plugs. So we begin, as always, with a week in Star Wars. And this week, I want to talk about something that I haven't had much time to talk about, but I love talking about it with people on forums and stuff. This book, Star Wars, The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. You should get this book read. I think you'd like it. It's by Dr. Chris Kempshaw, an actual historian who did his dissertation on World War I. And it is a in-universe telling of, well, the rise and fall of the Empire from an in-universe perspective. It even had an in-universe author, Beaumont Kim, Mary from Rise of Skywalker. Yes, this is his book. It's a very fun book and a very fun premise, which really puts into perspective a lot of things. And one thing I actually found really interesting, especially from like a historical standpoint, in terms of like rebellions and insurgency and stuff, is the Battle of Hoth. I've talked about before how this book doesn't really retroactively change anything, so much just more clarifies. But one thing I do think it has retroactively changed my view on is the Battle of Hoth itself. Where, in the movie, of course, it's the Empire Strikes Back. It's like the Empire is striking back. Oh no, our poor rebels. But what's interesting about this book is that it actually makes the argument that the Battle of Hoth, yet kind of a victory for the Empire, but actually, when you look at it, it's actually like a big freaking defeat for the Empire for a lot of reasons. One, because they do play on the fact that Oswald came at a light speed too close to the system, because he is clumsy and he's stupid. The rebel leadership got away. And, lots of troops and soldiers got lost because Vader is so, tunnel vision focused on capturing Luke that in the long run, it really did a harm on morale for the Imperial forces who are like starting to think, are we going to win this war or not? And it's like, they're like, Vader's really like, jigging the trenches, and it also goes into like stuff in the movie itself where like Star Destroyers got lost, got destroyed because Vader's like, go to the asteroid field and find the Millennium Falcon. No, I do not care. Just do it. And it's like just Vader's just like killing all his forces, just completely butchering it. And it's like, but no, I found that whole section really interesting. But Red, as someone who has not read the book, what are your thoughts on that kind of retroactive, I guess, kind of viewing of Hoth?
Yeah, E.C. Henry has a great video from a couple of years ago about Hoth specifically, where he's like, it's a rebellion victory, plain and simple. And yeah, he's kind of right. They achieve all their objectives. The Empire doesn't really achieve any of theirs except for abandonment of Echo Base, which is not the primary objective there. It's capture Alliance leadership and destroy the Alliance's fighting capacity. They fail to do either thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Also, another interesting thing this book brings up is the Battle of Yavin, which, again in the movie, it's like it's a big deal. It's a big turning point. The book kind of hints though that yeah, the Empire destroying Yavin might not have been good, but also it kind of hints, although it never goes like into like detail because obviously it's kind of a counterfactual what if situation of at least according to like the wider lore, my Mothma's out of there. It's like her and most of the bigwigs are like they fled to before the
Yeah.
Dark shows up on Yavin. So it's sort of like even if they destroy Yavin, obviously Leia and Luke, it's probably not a good thing. But it's sort of like would that been a true Imperial defeat? And of course, like always, it's there. This book also does the whole thing of like, oh yeah, the Death Star destruction, loss of Tarkin, loss of like the chiefs of staff, uh, big destruction, big blow to the Empire. Especially loss of Tarkin. Like Tarkin was kind of irreplaceable in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found that really interesting. Um, just in terms of just the book itself. But no, Red, I think you should get at least this book because this is a really interesting in-universe look at things. Uh, Especially just the dark times in the Galactic Civil War. So again, really interesting. I'm glad they played up that part of Hoth. Um,
Do we get further lore on what the heck the remaining empire is after the concordance?
um, yeah, no, not deeply. There's a although they do kind of handle it well. Where there's kind of a funny moment of, it's like, oh, the Thrawn campaign thing was under New Republic like declassified info and it still was when Hosnian Prime got blown up. So we've only now been able to like start to look at it, but I didn't have time to publish it by the time of this. They go a little bit into the remnants, like there were some warlords and stuff, and how apparently Masameda did live post Return of the Jedi, but because they trusted him a little too much, was kind of resettling the bureaucracy. Certain Imperials probably got to go get off scot free more than they should have when trying to build the New Republic back up. There's obviously they talk a lot about like how the nice stuff went to the First Order faction, which hid in the Outer Rim. They go. I think they put like a little bit into like the mid rim remnant a little bit, just sort of like, oh yeah, they existed, and then they kind of collapsed because they didn't have any good resources. Senator Ziono gets a name drop as the senator who just sat out the war entirely until the New Republic came back. It's like, here I am. My only redeeming legacy is my kid, who's kind of. So yeah, no, not super much. The best stuff is kind of Dark Times. It also goes into the idea, of course, of the Empire really is just Palpatine just needs resources to live forever, and he doesn't care about ruling the galaxy.
Right.
So that's nice. The book actually does a pretty good job, I think, of like making Palpatine both not the end all be all. And I actually think one thing I think is kind of funny in this book is, in some ways, I think the book kind of, at least this is my interpretation of the book. Maybe you'll have a different one if you decide to read it. Is Palpatine's return kind of screwed over the First Order because then everyone remembered, oh yeah, it's about this guy, and Palpatine's like has to make it all about himself. Where it's like, here are these neo-imperialist fascists just trying to establish a new dominant order. Then Palpatine comes in and he's like, nope, gotta be about me. I don't care about any of this, just about me. Because Palpatine got that ego.
It would almost be like if during the ascendancy of what Michael S. Judge calls the post-war international or like fascist international of sort of the sub-state actors, the Spider Network, all the like Organization of American States, NATO, but also like Sofindus and all these like mercenary groups run by Nazis, or like the Gelen organization, and all these subterfuge things that kind of get wrapped into a bunch of institutions or just operate on their own and infiltrate. It'd be almost like if Hitler was in the Hollow Earth, like like the guys in Colonia Dignidad at their cult compound believed. If he actually was, and he popped out during like the middle of the Cold War and like took like 60% of like NATO's entire infrastructure to just like invade the Soviet Union again and just lost.
Yeah,
It's like
no.
by if you go with like Michael S. Judge's of Death is Just Around the Corner podcast and a historian guy's theory of the Cold War as World War III, it's like they won, but if Hitler had come back partway through, they would have lost. They would have just thrown. It's like, yeah, if he just pops up and is like, "Yep, it's me again. We're gonna do the exact same thing as last time, baby," and it's just, yeah,
I
just
didn't learn my lessons. I didn't.
yeah, hey liberals, watch this! Crashes directly into the ground. It's like, yeah, just
Pretty much. I mean, it kind of is played of like, like the galaxy's like, oh shoot, this again. Nope, we're not. We're not. We're done with this Sith Lord business
his
nonsense.
disgusting pickled clone did way more than he ever did, or at
I
least he did from
know.
coming back.
No, I
Justice for
mean,
Snoke.
oh, totally. Like this is my hot take about Snoke. I think Snoke is actually a good leader, and by good leader, I mean like not a good, like a decent, but like I think he legit probably was like a better manager, right?
Yeah,
Like yeah,
Palpatine had to rein himself in.
exactly. And Snoke knew how to manage the First Order. He was getting it. But no, this is a fun book. Definitely read it. Another book I would recommend to you read. Did I tell you Alexander Freed's doing a Rebel book?
Hmm.
Yes, it will be set in the early dark time, focus on Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Saw Gerrera. So I was really taking Garm's place, hadn't he, as the radical rebel.
Yeah.
I like Saw, so still.
Hmm.
But no, that's my week of Star Wars. Have you done anything Star Wars related, Red, or anything fun?
Uh,
You read anything?
read the comics for this week. And obviously the trailers,
Right.
or one of the trailers. I have not seen any unofficially released trailers.
Right. Neither have I. But
Yeah. If Joel talks about that stuff, it came to him a dream.
yes, it's all dream. Visions of a future. But okay, let's talk about that. Let me go with the D23 news. So yeah, not much. I wouldn't expect much, but we did get some. There's some stuff for Andor and Mando, and of course Skeleton Crew. Not about Skeleton Crew last. We'll go through Andor. Surprise, kind of. We kind of knew this. K2SO and director Krennic will be returning for next season. So yes, we will be seeing director Orson Krennic back in all of his white cape glory. There was an image out there of him in the ISB room, so maybe he'll be talking to. I would love if he talked to Colonel Partagas. I love Colonel Partagas. I love that actor. So that's cool. We saw an image. I can't show you the image, but I can only tell you guys. There's an image of Kathy looking quite suave, his hair slicked back. He's wearing like a fancy suit. There's some teaser stuff. See Mon talking to somebody. And of course, it's 3 seeds that's going to cover everything up to Rogue One. So I'm crossing my fingers General Graven shows up. I hope he does. I think we need at least one Graven's thing. Anything spark your interest there, Red? Krennic?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of people were predicting Krennic. Makes sense. I am curious if we're going to have any, like, if that's going to be completely within the Daedra side of the plot, or if that's going to interact at all directly with Cassian.
That's a good point.
Like, I do wonder if we're going to have dual plots, or if it is going to be more like season 1, where it is sort of always following the ripple effects of Cassian directly.
That's a good point. I mean, we know they're probably going to continue somewhat of the Mon Mothma plot. I'm also curious about what happens to Lucid, right? Because like I think you and I are kind of right now, and he's got to die. I mean, he doesn't have to die, but we kind of suspect he's not going to be around. Not looking to this world. One thing I'm actually quite curious about what they'll do is, do you think this will intersect with the Rebels episode not the Rebels episode, the Mon Mothma episode of Rebels, right? Because that's gonna have to Mon Mothma being such a prominent character. You think they'll show how she escaped, and then kind of like, maybe like not. I don't think they'll show the Rebels characters, but like it's like maybe like she gets out of there. It's like we got like someone said like we got a ship, the Ghost. They'll take you the rest of the way, or something like that. Do you think that will come into effect somehow this season?
Yeah, we might get. I would like if they show or maybe have a mention of like Gold Squadron getting slaughtered, because that plays a part in the episode where Gold Squadron is cut down beforehand, and they're angry at the Ghost Crew for not really being involved directly. Like stuff like that, the things leading up. So you sort of, even if we don't see Mon Mothma leave, we can sort of pinpoint timeline-wise.
Yeah, because this also is setting up the Gorman massacre too. That's got to play a part. Because that was in season 1, and I have a total feeling they're going to be back in season 2. There's also an image of Saw. I forgot Saw is there, and I think he's on Dakar. So that might also be happening as well.
Was Dakar a rebel base originally?
I don't know. It'd be kind of cool if it was. Maybe. I mean, they're definitely using old assets. Resistance was, so it's possible that maybe Saul was on Dakar. I mean, we're speculating that it's Dakar. We don't know. It looks like Dakar. Some people have pointed out. So there was that image as well. But yeah, that's all for Andor coming next year. Very exciting. Mando got a couple things. Just a shot of got a little bit of a teaser. Nothing really much. It's just really the only new footage is we got Din and Grogu hunting down Imperial remnants. They're on a snow planet. I don't know which one. They didn't say. Some people think Ilum. Other people think Hoth. That's where the remnant base is. And then you see Din riding one of those. Is it an ATS? Not an ATST. It's those walkers from like episode 3 that are on Kashyyyk. You know those ones?
The open canopy or the artillery one?
I think the open canopy one. Like they're kind of like joggers looking things.
Oh wait, no. The ATRTs, like really quick ones.
Yeah, the fast one because it's like the walker.
Oh yeah, the ATRTs.
I think it's an ATRT or something of that caliber because the walker, but it's going really fast. And then they run into some AT-ATs, and they got bolted. That was it. That was all. That was only. Oh, and Zeb's gonna be in the movie, so that's nice. It's Zeb. And that was it. That was all the Mando stuff. I'd be curious to see if it's Ilum or Hoth that's the snowy planet, because like we could be doing that to like show, hey, look, here's the remnant on what will be Starkiller base, or it could be interesting to see the remnant on Hoth because then they're using old Rebel assets.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice as a reversal.
That's why I'm kind of hoping it's Hoth, because like, oh look, it's the remnant on Hoth. No, they're the Rebels.
Is it Jedi Knight 1 or is it Jedi 2, Jedi Academy, when you go back to Hoth?
It's Academy.
Yeah, I love that mission. It's really annoying at times, but such a fun mission.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Especially because like I always feel like Mando has like reminds me the most of the Jedi games a little bit, except without the Jedi part. You just get to fight the remnant in bases and stuff. Like, oh, this reminds me of Jedi Academy. Like,
yeah, I forgot which episode it was. Well,
it's the one on Navarro.
Yeah, the one Carl Weathers directed on Navarro in season 2. That is just straight up like a Dark Forces level.
Oh,
it's like, yeah, just more of that would be fun.
That would be fun. So yeah, there's that. Nothing major there. And then finally, the only major thing coming is Skeleton Crew 20 this year. which is John Watts's Amblin-inspired Goonies and Star Wars, where we see Star Wars suburbia in all of its middle class glory. I want to headcanon that this is Shangela. So yeah, we see that, and we saw Jude Law at last being some sort of Force user, maybe the Jedi, maybe the failed Jedi. I don't know. You see the kids, they find what might be a Jedi temple, and then they just get lost in space. Not
I
much.
think that's just a ship.
That might be just a. Oh, that could be like find a ship. I wonder what kind of ship though. It'll be interesting if like it's got any like a historical relevance of the Jedi ship or just a ship.
Zim the Despot.
I
No,
hope.
well, they might.
That might. I don't know. That'd be cool with them the Despot ship. And then there's going to be the pirates from that Mandalore season 3 episode. We know it's in there. Apparently, there's a droid named Shmi, which I kind of is funny. And yeah, Skeleton Crew. Red, what do you think of the trailer? What do you think of Star Wars Suburbia Planet now?
It's as alienating as it is in real life, so they're doing it well. I like seeing it. It definitely raises the questions of, why is it look exactly like, just like space wise, like it is a little direct, but at the same time, they're gonna need suburbia. There's gonna need to be stuff like that, especially given Star Wars is not exactly the kind of franchise that will question or like be speculative fiction in the sense of, you know, oh, if it's a completely different society, why would they create a form of like housing structure that existed solely as a response to mass industrialization and immigration and stuff. It's like, yeah, the social forces aren't there, but also Star Wars is not that kind of franchise.
Yeah.
So of course they're gonna ape stuff. They're gonna just kind of plop Star Wars into Americana. Makes sense. My only hesitation is the whole trailer does seem a bit too. I'm worried that we are replacing. Remember 80s Star Wars? Remember 80s Star Wars with. Remember other 80s franchises, but in Star Wars? And that is my only hesitation. Because it's like. It's nice that we're getting a thing focused for kids, but it also kind of seems like it's way more oriented towards.
You like Goonies as a kid.
Yeah, but it's like people who grew up with the Goonies. And
Yeah.
it's like if there was a Star Wars for kids, but like very high quality live action, not the Ewok stuff. When you were a kid, 40-year-olds, and it's like part of me is kind of like Resistance deserved more credit because I feel like Resistance and Rebels were way, in terms of stuff Star Wars oriented towards kids, more modern, not obsessed with their own nostalgia as much. Who knows? This is just the trailer, but it is very Spielberg, and I get that that's a big part of Star Wars, but there is just always that worry that we can't escape the nostalgia stuff.
No, I get you. I get you there. I like your point also, by the way, of how it is kind of funny how Star Wars has kind of implemented real world social stuff into it, even though the social forces aren't there. But how do I put it? Like, I mean, I don't mind it obviously, like, and it should, obviously the Empire is a fascist empire. I even think this book actually uses the word fascist once or twice. I always find that a little interesting as well. When I hear like real world ideology mentioned in Star Wars, it very rarely happens, but it's there. I feel like
we have all the talk of democracy.
Well, that's
and it's
true.
like, what, did Athens exist?
Or it's like, I'm all for Star Wars embracing communism, but at the same time, unless Karl Marx is like is actually in the Star Wars universe as like a secret Jedi or something.
Well, what you gotta do is do what One Piece does, where you have like obvious references character-wise, but you don't say anything explicitly. but it's like, okay, why is there an image of what is clearly Karl Marx and Che Guevara in the background, and the writer's just like the manga writer and artist of that is just like, I don't know what you're talking about, and you see his actual room in real life, and there's just a Che Guevara behind him.
Oh
It's
god.
like, I don't know what this means.
Well, it's like it would be called.
I want Star Wars HOA.
Ooh, that'd be
I
kind of fun.
want a homeowners association, and I want them to be the villains of this. Like they're like trying to cancel the like a vacate like a school trip, and so that's why the kids go out adventuring or something. It's just
Right.
petty local politics.
Oh, you know that probably exists. Yeah, I truly want to believe that the homeowners association exists somewhere in Star Wars. But no,
We know that what's his face, Cyril's mom
oh,
is the head of the HOA,
and she was
that
probably
apartment
part of the
complex.
PTA too. You know,
Oh yeah.
when you were a kid during the Clone Wars.
Oh, now she is.
Oh,
She's one of those people whose kids are not in school and is still like really loud at the PTA meetings.
we need to start. We need to teach our kids about the glory of Palpatine. That's what they do. No, I will say though the thing about Star Wars Suburbia, which I do think is interesting though, is it is kind of nice, and I do think Resistance also did this pretty well, good as well. Is I like seeing the civilian side of Star Wars, and I do think we've gotten a little bit more of that in the last few years. Even when it's funny, like I remember Book of Boba Fett. I got my problem with that show, but I do think it's kind of funny. It's like here's Boba Fett at the mayor's office, and he's just dealing with the local secretary. Um,
Mhm.
it's played for laughs. It's not that serious, but like it's nice to see that because I do feel like you know. Like, and I do, and the expanded universe did that a lot. But the expanded universe also did focus a lot on Luke, Han, and Leia, and let's face it, they're the all powerful. They don't need to deal with civilian lives. Like
Mhm.
they're loaded. They're rich and they're loaded, and they can do whatever. Um, it is kind of cool seeing just like what's a nobody like you or me living in Star Wars, right? Where it's like they got all
Yeah.
these epic grand wizardry stuff, and we still get that, but it's like what's the suburban kid dealing with his Ithorian neighbor doing?
Yeah,
Uh,
because we got the stuff with Pershing in Mandalorian. We got to see like city life in Coruscant. It's nice to see like. I wonder if this is a new planet, as in like recently established. Like, is this a New Republic colony world or something?
no, I agree. I genuinely wonder the new. No, that's why the New Republic's secretly evil. They invented suburbia. They deserve to get blown up.
It was like first order agents within the Republic.
Yes, that's it's a centrist world. You know that. All part of Palpatine's plans. You know, I like that. That's the one thing I really like about some of the stuff, just sort of the world building aspect and seeing kind of the city life and suburban life. I joke it's Chandrilla, but part of me kind of wants it to be Chandrilla. Just sort of like this is where Mon Mothma comes from.
It might be.
It's suburban planet. But
I
what?
like
Well,
that there's like not wheels, like tracked vehicles. Like everything's sort of a monorail, which is nice because that it's like, yeah, you wouldn't want like flying cars everywhere because they're gonna just start crashing into each other, and people are gonna, you know,
right.
road safety is just impossible in that situation. So it's like, yeah, okay, you have your fast cars, but they're on, mostly at least, or they're maybe forced when they're on the road directly to be on a
Hmm.
specific thing, and that is organized. It's not like Coruscant. It's
No,
like just small stuff like that is nice.
no, I agree. And also we got to protect these kids with our lives because Star Wars has not had a good history with child actors in its fandom. So protect these kids. They
Oh
look
God.
because they all look adorable. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. Especially the kid playing the might be Ottoland. We're not 100% sure because we're not sure if that's an Ottoland or not. But it looks adorable.
Yeah, I know the entire all of the people who still stand by, no, they were supposed to have no, they just have legs. They don't have arms. We was playing with his legs, stuff. I know that those people are just molding right now. They're infuriated. But the Old Republic, like Tor fan in me,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of vindicated. It's just like, yes, they are just like short stature, but they do have arms and legs.
Nice. But
It's
yes,
victory.
protect these kids. They all look adorable. Here's a random question that I like that people have brought up, but I do kind of wonder if they'll do it. I doubt it. Chances of Jude Law is just grown corn horn. What are the? I've heard that rumor.
Huh.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but I've heard people say like, well, I don't know, we're gonna use the Force, Jedi, maybe, and be youngish.
If he is not corn, you have now ruined the show for me because now I'm like, he has to be corn. He has to be corn.
Well, we do know Great Cornhorn exists. We know that.
Yep.
He hung out with little Leia and Kenobi. So he's force sensitive because he's on the path. He's on the path thing. So I guess I'll be curious to see what Jude Law's whole shtick is as a force user, but probably not a Jedi. I think he's gonna pretend to be a Jedi, but like he's clearly not, even though he had like force powers.
I mean, his expression at the end there, like the smirk, it's like he's messing with them,
Right.
plain and simple.
Oh, totally. Um, it's actually kind of interesting though to see people with force powers who are not really part of the religion. Which I think is, I mean, which we've seen a little bit, but I think we might see more of. Um, so I gotta tell you this. So you know that Star Wars Outlaw, not the Outlaws. That's the kingdom. Hunters. That Star Wars that PS that
Yeah, the hero shooter.
yeah, the hero shooter game. One of the characters, like it's basically like professional, almost like professional wrestling in a weird way. But like one of the characters had a lightsaber, red lightsaber, and they call themselves a Sith, but they're not actually a Sith. They're like it's like a wrestling thing. It's like oh, I'm the Sith Lord wrestler character, and I find that hilarious from just like an in-universe perspective because there's like lore behind this. Of like that's gotta be like wild to someone like Luke Skywalker who's like watching this. It's like, I had to actually fight the real deal. This is like professional wrestling.
Yeah, like the galaxy doesn't know that Palpatine was a Sith.
No,
And so for everyone else, it's just like this ancient. Well, I mean, they were around in the Clone Wars.
Did Dooku? No, but I don't think Dooku outed himself as a Sith. I think everyone just thought he was a Jedi.
Yeah, but Ventress was around, and people kind of assumed she was. I would think.
That's true. Or a dark Jedi.
Yeah. But yeah, people just appropriating that stuff.
Or like the robot Jedi. It's like, you gotta wonder if like someone like Luke or Ahsoka are looking at that and like, huh. I just find little things like that.
Well, Hu Yang.
That's true. Yang.
Jedi robots can be Jedi. I was gonna say Jedi can be robots. Robots can be Jedi. Always maintain that.
Oh no,
Skippy was not an absurd idea.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that totally. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I get your concerns about it. Got a great cast of directors though, so yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, that was all the D23 news so far. But yeah, let's get into it. Tales of the Jedi, the Freedon Nadd Uprising. So we are now, let's see, we've done like 2, 3, 4 issues of this. This is like this is technically arc 3? Yeah, arc 3.
Yeah.
Because we decided to go with Golden Age and Sith Empire early first. We had the Cap transmissions viewing of this comic. So I guess I'll just start with you, Red. what do you think of this arc, and where does it fall in terms of like the wider Tales of the Jedi story line so far? What we've done.
It definitely feels like maybe the least justified as being its own arc.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I kind of feel like maybe the Nomi Sunrider story should have just been 2 issues on their, or 2 or 3 issues or whatever. Yeah, 2 on their own
Mm-hmm.
as a miniseries within this, and then Freedon Nadd Uprising. Otherwise, it
Mm-hmm.
kind of feels more like uh just the final 2 issues of the first 3 issues storyline, the Knights of the Old Republic arc. But yeah, it is nice wrap up of everything, setting up the greater threats. You get a lot of foreboding and sort of. It's nice because they don't establish the main villains really yet. Exar is obviously not until the next issue,
Mm-hmm.
and we get some stuff with the craft cultists, but that seems kind of inane at first, and you're not really thinking that's going to be super dangerous. And in the end, they aren't necessarily super dangerous. Like you're seeing fractures. Even Freedon Nadd himself is not exactly what's going to be causing what they allude to here about the Republic.
Right.
About it seems like it's stable, or it's going to be secure or whatever. And you have that scene where they're talking about Coruscant,
Mm-hmm.
or they're on Coruscant. I'm trying to find what they say, but like Vice
The
sort
audio
of.
drama of the Coruscant scene is kind of low key hilarious. I'll just say that. I
Ooh,
listened to the
what do they
audio.
do?
Um, it's well, Nomi had like a big speech to like the Senate people, and it's like like how can you rep? She's like how I Master Thrawn is like talking through her, and he's like how do you represent these billions of systems? And the senator is like, well, we represent our governments who represent the people, and like yes, we have our differences, but we are a democracy. It's very 90s, like democracy. We work because we say so. The republic just works. I just find that kind of hilarious. It's
It's also
very,
nice that that's confirmation of the. So you better tell Corey before he loses about that. That's further
very schmaltzy.
uh, confirmation of the thing of the Senate being elected by planetary governments directly.
I should, yeah. I forget the exact line, but it's like, one of my favorite. I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, no, no. So I'll ask you this question. So you're in terms of like the wider arc, and we can probably get into this as we continue on. But you're okay with kind of the way that this kind of saga has sort of been paced as sort of like Exar Kun is like we're not really like we have not built up to like our actual big bad and stuff like that. You've been thinking the pacing overall for like as a saga has been pretty good.
Yeah, I think it works at we're not jumping straight into there's a planet killer, or there's a
That's nice.
threat that exists that's hanging over everything. None
Mm-hmm.
of that has even emerged. It's all literally in this case subterranean.
No,
Uh
that's true.
and it's stuff that seems innocuous, like have the so as the Senate debate rages elsewhere on Coruscant, the followers of the dark side are at work, seeding the beginnings of what may prove the undoing of the Republic itself. And that's when we get uh Seytal and Alima. Uh
Right.
but like you get these much smaller
Mm-hmm.
conflicts, these local planetary things that are kind of getting out of hand, but the mere presence of the dark side escalates and causes a larger threat. And Jedi get sent in, and then that escalates. The dark side escalates that further, and even though it loses, it's working in other places, but it's not necessarily part of a plan.
Right.
It's just the dark side as a force is moving, and so you just get these little fractures. Uh, I think it works really well for establishing to the audience, because this is the beginning of the New Republic. This is completely alien to the readers. establishing what this old republic was so that you can have it be thrown properly into chaos. A lot like episode 1 again, where episode 1 really is low stakes when you think about it.
Oh yeah, it's a very self-contained. It's I always said this about episode 1. It's weirdly self-contained despite also being important, right? In some sense. You can shoot, you muted yourself. Quite red, by the way.
Drinking iced tea.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. Because like episode 1 is like the weird thing about episode 1. I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong. Is like if you want to stop after episode 1, you could, and you get a self-contained story. Even though obviously, like then episode 2 and 3 are kind of like, okay, now here comes the big thing, like Count Dooku and Separatist, and obviously the fall of Anakin. It's weird. Again, Tom Veitch, man, this guy's got some clairvoyance. It's kind of scary. I'm now starting to realize Tales of the Jedi is very structured, like the prequels. Even when down the line, although it's 2 characters falling to the dark side instead of having a that fall of the dark side happening later, then the big Sith War thing happens. It's a little out of order, but same thing, same kind of premise. So I guess this is the Freedon Nadd Uprising is like still our episode 1, or is it more like our episode 2?
It's that first act of episode 2 where we're back on Coruscant, but we're getting to actually see Coruscant as like a functioning part of society, and we have like a Jedi murder investigation, and we're getting Senate politics,
right.
But things are a little bit murkier. Like when we look at how we open episode 1, it's the exact platform from episode 2. It's the exact platform from episode 1, but everything's gray and there's clouds everywhere.
Right.
It's no longer this beautiful, yay, we've escaped Tatooine and everything. It's becoming shrouded in darkness.
Right. No, I agree. Speaking of the attack, what do you think of the Vader looking dude? I want to
say Null.
Yeah, what do you think of him? What do you think of armored Vader?
Great design, great lightsaber. Very much a wasted character in a lot of ways, but
yeah,
he is sort of just meant to be an enforcer. Like he's not even a Jedi at all. I know, like the source book has it be that he's just an armorer guy who gets possessed by the armor or something, by like Freedon Nadd's spirits and everything. And that then comes back way, way later during the final days of the Clone Wars, where Jedi puts it on and gets possessed.
No, that's still kind of a thing, and even in new canon too, with like the Moment helmet and a couple of just helmets that kind of take over your body.
Yeah, Moment's helmet was similar to it. I'm pretty sure was on some level inspired by that. Maybe because there's a lot of direct references to like TOTJ era, like aesthetics in that Lando mini. Like the lightsabers and everything were very inspired by TOTJ.
Oh yeah, I think TOTJ's had a lot of influence lately in things. I just get that vibe, but yeah,
I think a lot of the comic people, especially, enjoy the more out there stuff.
Oh, totally. But no, I agree. I mean, he's cool, but it's like it doesn't do much. Just kind of there, like Vader without the fun or the character.
So at the time, you're the Dark Empire fan. So at the time, the Ossus would have been established. Ossus is in the first Dark Empire, right?
I know. I think it's in the second one. I think. Let me look. I think it's in the second one. Yeah, because Dark Empire 91, Tale of the Jedi is like a few years later. Dark Empire 2 is... Oops, this is the canon. Ossus. Yes, Ossus is canon, by the way.
We saw it, remember?
Yeah, it's Luke's temple. It's where Luke... That's the planet East Episton. But let me check on Wikipedia. But I am pretty sure Osis is.
It's
Oh wait. Let's see, Dark Empire. Okay, so it does not appear in Dark Empire 1, but it does appear in Dark Empire 2.
first appearance is it is this. It's Freedon Nadd Uprising #1.
Okay, so there we go. No, that makes sense because I remember Dark Empire 2. I don't know if it happens before. Yeah, because Dark Empire 1 is 91. And when you if you ever reread that book again, because I do want to do that book eventually. I have a plan. I have plans. But if you ever do that book again, you'll realize just how kind of insular. I don't want to say insular. Maybe insular is the right word. Dark Empire 1 is because it's not
They're the
really,
rebellion again.
yeah, I mean, no, not even just that, but it's like when you really read Dark Empire 1 and kind of like have kind of disconnect yourself from the wider Legends lore in your head, you really realize that, oh, this book really was very self-contained, even from like connections to things. And then you read Dark Empire 2 and it's like, oh, here's Osis, here's Empire's End just has Onderon. So a lot more of that Tales of the Jedi stuff starts coming in. But no, what was your wider question? Just want to know what Osis.
Yeah, so we get so this is the first appearance of Osis. I was wondering, and so it's kind of just a stronghold here, and we get a bunch of training. It's not exactly the library planet of the Jedi yet, though the next arc will very much run with that, and obviously the Sith stuff, flashback issues, by then in like '96 or whenever that's fully established,
So
and they
Dark
play that out.
Empire is 95, and Tales of the Jedi, Freedon Nadd Uprising, uh, is this is 94. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, so at least a good chunk of the Tales of the Jedi stuff has been happening already by the time Dark Empire shows up. Although now that
Yeah,
makes
and
me
we got
wonder.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just had to look up one more thing. Oh, okay, so Tales of the Jedi's Dark Lords is 94 to 95. So yeah, that would make sense why Korriban shows up in Empire's End at least. But no, continue.
Yes, and we get my boy Vodosia's boss.
Yeah. Yep.
Freaking giant shrimp guy.
But we'll get
Love
to
the
him
Jedi
next.
in this.
Oh
yeah, he gets even cooler.
But I guess we'll talk about what did you think of the Jedi in this particular arc, especially like.
I like seeing them sort of being sent in as like a task force, but they're also not exactly like they're along with the Republic, but they do operate on their own. Like they serve the Republic's laws, they have to obey them, but they are the main muscle for a lot of stuff. And it's like if things get really bad, it kind of reminds, honestly, another Attack of the Clones thing. The Jedi go in to do saving their fellow Jedi. They get surrounded, but also the Republic comes flying down and fighting. It's the ending of Attack of the Clones.
Right. Oh, dang. Dang. Tom fights, man. Tom fights. No, I like that, and it is interesting seeing kind of the Republic Jedi relationship here, which has always been very, very interesting to talk about in the canon, like Legends, all this stuff. There's a hilarious line during the Senate scene, the Senate committee scene, where one of the senators goes, they're like, do we want to go to Onderon and help? It's like, it's a backwards world, not one of our members. And when one of them says, quelling civil unrest is one thing, but going against the dark side is another. I just kind of, I found that line hilarious. I wanted to say, like, we'll bash a labor union dispute, but dark wizardry, we don't touch that stuff.
Yeah, it's like dark side concerns are an official, quantifiable thing for them. Like that's you can put that on the paperwork or something of like, yeah, this was a dark side matter. That's just
Evil wizardry, Satanism.
it's like this is a matter for the Jedi themselves to resolve.
Yeah, we don't deal with that space wizard stuff. It's weird, scary. But no, I agree. It is cool. I always love the designs. The poor Twilight dude at the beginning, though, he's just getting the runaround. First it was the racism, then
Todd is the unsung hero of all of this stuff. He is the through line of everyone else's BS and drama. And he is just a good Jedi, just doing the right thing consistently and never getting the credit.
mm-hmm.
He should have been in KOTOR.
Yeah, he brought. I mean, are Twilight's long-lived species?
It would only be like 30 years later, and he's like 20 here.
That's true. I thought KOTOR was 100 years later. I'm always confused by the timeline.
No, because Jolie Bendu, was in the Exarch Kun War.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That makes sense. Oh yeah, see that's the thing about KOTOR. I know bothers a lot of people, including myself, a little bit. Like technologically wise, like oh dang, everything changed so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
But so there's the Coruscant uh, museum, which I guess
oh
plays with that thing of like the Sith being notable. Which this is before we even got Great Hyperspace War or anything, but we have the stuff of there being knowledge of the Sith, but them being sort of this fairy tale. And Empress Teta is mentioned here, the Empress Teta
right,
system.
right.
We're getting all of that, and Veitch's sort of world building. I do have to say, the guy moving the books around
Mhm.
on the shelves at a museum, the antique books, with no gloves on his hand, in a little wheelie thing, just moving them on and off the shelf is so much anxiety. Like, what the heck? This is a museum. He's holding ancient evil texts from like the Great Hyperspace War, which is like 10,000 years ago, and he's
Mhm.
just wheeling them around and putting them on shelves with his bare, gross hands with no
I,
security.
it,
Though
I just
my local museum did have a guy who continuously would like just take the important like hundreds of years old books at one of America's most like prestigious museums,
oh
and he
god,
would just cut. He worked there. He would just take a knife and cut out a bunch of pages, and then take them out in his like bag and
oh
sell them for years.
oh gosh, no, terrible. By a
This guy's
historian.
doing this in the open.
This hurt my little heart. Oh gosh, that's terrible. No, I love that. Oh, I guess I'll ask you this question: as we're reading now, kind of back in order, do you think that the world building Vikings do, which is great? I mean, I'm not questioning the world building, but do you think that it's that if you were to then again go back to Golden Age and Sith Empire, you might come down on those a little bit? Like, does the world building Vikes does elevate this stuff, or kind of like, oh, Vikes had been making this way more interesting than it actually became? I'm just kind of curious.
Uh, I mean, we'll have to get into the craft stuff for that element and all the Empress Teta stuff.
Right.
But with the Sith, I think it does elevate some of this, knowing that you had like giant Sith worms and stuff, so it makes it part of Coruscant's
Right.
own history
Mm-hmm.
and makes the hesitancy about wanting to deal with the dark side make more sense
Mm-hmm.
or be less of like, just trying to push it off onto someone else, but more of a like, well, Coruscant has been hit directly before when they meddle with dark side stuff.
Right.
Kind of makes sense that they're hesitant.
Mm-hmm. I'll also ask about the Sith. Like, how are your feelings on it? Kind of just looking at it for the times of the '90s, pre the prequels. Like, like would there have been elements you wish they could have kept when George made his version? is there stuff you like the more improvements on? Kind of just looking at this world building from the dark side perspective. If that makes sense.
I mean, the Sith, there are definitely more wizards here. There's not like an order. Freedon Nadd obviously is treated much more like. What did we realize last time about what Freedon Nadd's thing is? Where does he come from?
Yeah. Oh shit. Well, he comes from Underworld. He was just a Jedi, and then
he is just a fallen Jedi. Then
he's just a fallen Jedi. He went to Yavin 4.
Right. Yeah, so he does have Sith knowledge.
I think he trained with Naga Sadow.
Yeah, he definitely does. Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely more disconnect, and the dark side is more just interchangeable with Sith as opposed to the Sith being like a solid thing. But at the same time, the Sith are clearly like a species at this point and an empire that was crushed. They're not really talking about them as a religion, as a faith, or as a like ideological order. It's just another power that some people have the knowledge of, which I guess the next arc sort of builds upon, where here you have people meddling and they have blood connected to the Empress Teta system. They're aristocrats and they have this entitlement to that stuff. And you have the Underanians who are also descended from Freedon Nadd. All of those kings and queens are his descendants, and they have all that Sith magic in their blood or whatever. And it all pales in comparison to two fallen Jedi who directly get the teachings, and not even so much from the Sith Empire, but from one very aggrieved Sith and a previous very aggrieved former Jedi. And so you're starting to get the actual Sith ideology. The old Sith are being replaced by the refined Sith, where there can only be sometimes just two, and that can be more powerful. And Revan and Malak then, 30 years later, replace the same thing, and then we keep going, and the Brotherhood of Sith, the Brotherhood of Darkness, sort of tries to return to this era of the dark side and Sith, and that gets crushed by pain. It's like it's sort of. I mean, part of that is thanks to Carpishian for really making that all work together, but
I think
it's interesting.
No, I think it's actually interesting when you. I'll save this for when we get to Dark Lord. I have an interesting point about like Sith cycles and honoring the true Sith and whatnot. But we'll get to those dark side cousins. Those cousins who are cousining.
Well, they're aristocrats.
Yeah, they're probably getting married. What do you think of Alima and Satao?
I think they really work as these sort of an alternate, Darksiders who are not necessarily even. They have no reason to be like hateful beyond just entitlement, and so it's like the dark side uses these people just like it does with Omen. With Omen obviously getting just betrayed at the end, and much like they will as well. Where it's curiosities to them, or it's their own personal power, which is very Sith-like, but it's entirely entitlement because of their blood, not entitlement of them as a singular individual.
Right. I've been thinking a little bit about these guys and about Omen, and I do wonder if Veitch is almost thinking this is what Palpatine was, because remember this is the 90s and Palpatine was never confirmed as a Sith until Phantom Menace. I've checked. They don't say the Sith in Dark Empire, and I've always wondered if with Palpatine, at least in the EU writers' minds, Palpatine was never into the dark side because of the religion or the Sith stuff, and more like, oh, he's just a rich politician who, once he got political power, he's like, now I'm just going to delve into dark magic, and kind of really start to study that stuff now. Since they have all this political power, and I'll let Tarkin run the show, which is kind of what happened to Canon, except Palpatine already had the dark power. But I always kind of like, so sometimes I like read like the Dark Empire source book and stuff, and I always kind of get the sense, and maybe I'm wrong, that Palpatine started delving into the dark side after he became Emperor, and then got all the dark side, Sith clone magic, what's-a-mahoots. But what do you think?
He might have at this point, and it definitely, like, we definitely get these sort of counterbalanced Sith archetypes, like the fallen Jedi, and then the entitled politicians or aristocracy types. And you can sort of see a bit of Vader Palpatine dynamic in that.
Right.
And so I imagine that's where a lot of it's coming from, because those are our only two Darksiders at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I like these cousins. I also think it's kind of, it's very real world, right? Like, here are two rich people who are interested in satanic stuff. But let's face it, these are some real life rich people who are interested in
They
weird stuff.
are they're the freaking full society people.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Like
They really
they're just those creeps, because one of the full society were the predecessors to the Nazis. They were a cult, like Volkish movement. There's a special like area Sophony or whatever it's called, and a bunch of a bunch of founding members of the Nazis, like Rosenberg, were members. Uh, Rosenberg, Lehman, Hess, all of those freaks, but they had some prominent, like a lot of the aristocrats after the monarchy had fallen, joined groups like this or continued to work with organizations like that, uh, which led to some like prominent cases, like in the Bavarian uh, revolution in the Bavarian Soviet Republic. One of the uh, aristocrats and like major figures who was executed during the standoff that led to the fight that had the destruction and mass execution of all of the like workers and a lot of Jews, especially in Bavaria, in like 1918 or 1919. One of the guys they executed beforehand, which caused the crackdown, was an aristocrat. It was like a son of a prince or whatever. It definitely works with that, of like these people who understand they can't have direct power anymore, either they're not the main bloodline or the bloodline doesn't have as much political power, and so they turn to other stuff. They turn to the nationalists. And it was Prince Gustav of Thurn and Taxis, I assume.
right.
And so some royal house. Yeah, so German nobility. So it's nice seeing sort of the Republic. Yeah, it's a democracy, but you have all these weird, individual planets have their weird aristocrats and creepy
Right.
cults. You have, Omen. You have the twins. Like these. I mean, you kind of get sort of some play as well with like Queen Amanda and Omen being
Right.
decrepit and horrifying, and then these, young, attractive, gonna inbreed twins. It's like you get the through line, you get this grotesque image of these people. It's like Palpatine as a young, person, and then Palpatine, what he will become, sort of.
There's somebody said this, and I have yet to find it, even though I listened to the audiobook so many times. You think I've listened to it? There's a moment where Plagueis tells Palpatine, "Hey, looking like King Momo's actually going to be good for you. It means that you got a really dark side." Again, he says it probably more elegantly, but I swear somebody has said that basically Plagueis is like, oh yeah, you're gonna look like King Omen one day, but that means you have now embraced the dark side fully. That's like a badge of honor with our people.
No
But
wonder
no,
Palpatine wanted his clones.
yes, just a few minutes of just being handsome. Um, but no, the Civil Society stuff really makes sense because in the Dark Empire source book, which again kind of goes more into the idea of like Palpatine was the more the aristocrat who then got into this dark side stuff. Like he talked about how like this is like Palpatine's party lord, and him and his intimates will like go have like these dark side parties and
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's weird. It's like ew. Palpatine and his intimates like.
Yeah, it's like with Acolyte, where we get Palpatine's Plagueis' goon cave, as
Yeah,
Eckhart Ladder put it.
I love his goon. Yeah, he got his goon cave. Palpatine has his goon palace. You know, Pop Plagueis just looking over there.
Omen
Yeah,
has his basement stuff. It's like, yeah, all these Sith and all these Darksiders are sort of. There's a lot of stuff with subterranean. We had the fight on the surface the entire first arc,
right.
or even Darkseid working through like giant monsters or outlaws who aren't really driven by the dark side, but just sort of aid it in their cruelty. And then here we're getting the actual conscious evil emerging from the subterranean. And it will get killed off. I mean, Freedon Nadd just escapes and is like, yeah, I don't care about you guys. Hi, Jedi. I like you guys, actually. Because you're going to do some neat stuff. You're
Yeah,
gonna cause some real problems. And then you get
yeah,
the actual threat, and it's Exar and Ulick. And
right.
it's there's a lot going on as a through line of the villainy and how the dark side there's a real sense like dark side for light side war throughout.
And Tom Veitch was always good at that. I think Tom Veitch
Mm-hmm.
very much was way more into the cosmic light side versus dark side thing in comparison. I'm not saying this to downplay him, obviously, but like to Tim Zahn, who's like, I love the original Thrawn trilogy. Don't get me wrong, and I always enjoy a good read. But like you don't read that and get a sense like there's the cosmic war going on. Like at worst, you're just gonna get a very, which is still bad, a very authoritarian empire, and Thrawn is gonna have to deal with the headache of a mad clone.
Yeah,
It will probably just shoot one, like get rid of him when he's done. But like is even the term dark side mentioned in the Thrawn trilogy?
I think so.
That's
It, huh. I definitely is somewhere.
yeah, probably is. It just like the book itself doesn't really have that bravado that this does. And another thing about these comics that I have enjoyed, well, just in context with the Tom Veitch Dark Empire stuff, is about the villainy. Is like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the prequels, and I obviously like the lore the prequels gave, and kind of the streamlined Sith stuff. But I do think there is something a little interesting of the variety of Darksider. I do think a lot of Blade Legend stuff kind of fell into this trap. I think we're kind of coming back out of it, but like everything kind of just became Sith eventually, right? Like everybody was a Sith at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially like Tor stuff, and I get it, but it's like the Emperor, the Sith, Vitiate, and they got all the Sith acolytes. They're all just Sith compared to like they're Darksiders, but not every Darksider is a Sith. And I kind of like that. I even like in the sense of kind of the Emperor himself is like he's his own unique. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Emperor of the Sith, and I wouldn't change that for the world. But there is something kind of interesting thinking of back in the day. The Emperor was his own unique thing.
Yeah.
Like these cousins, like Omen would be. But it's cool. The scene in the museum is great. I love how the museum guys like, oh, there's nothing suspicious at all about these rich people in my museum. We're just interested in dark side stuff. It's cool. Nothing
Yeah.
suspicious here.
Also, first appearance of the Mira Luca.
Ooh, cool. Did not know that. That's good. So that's nice. I'm trying to look at the panel that the dark side stuff, and it's like I love looking at like, oh my god, there's like there's one panel where like Satal's touching like what's basically just an astronaut suit or a diving suit. That's cool. I love all the giant rhinoceros heads. I just love the aesthetics.
Yeah, that suit looks a lot like the those. It looks like a giant sized version of those small statues that like ancient astronaut people love to be like, oh look, aliens and stuff. But are I there's kind of similar designs from multiple places, but I think those are particularly from Japan because there's the Pokemon Clay doll, which is based on them.
Ooh.
But yeah, like that immediately was like, ooh, he's straight up printing. The artists are straight up printing that in Atkins and Rodier.
Nice. And I was like just checking again some of the moments with the panel, and um, it is interesting how even back then, I guess you're right. They really were kind of making like the Sith were a peoples, and then the Jedi Knights um, became the rulers. I think one thing that kind of always trips me, and maybe this is just a me problem, is sort of like there's somewhat a difference between the Dark Lords of the Sith and the Sith themselves. I don't know if you have that problem. I feel like I'm kind of like doing some where like the Dark Lords are the fallen Jedi and then the Sith are the peoples of Korriban.
I think Dark Lords was sort of meant as like the most powerful or sort of that main continuity.
Mhm.
Like Exar Kun is a Dark Lord, Ulik is a Dark Lord, Vader is a Dark Lord, uh Naga Sadal was the Dark Lord, Ludocrash wanted to be but wasn't. Freedon Nadd was a Dark Lord, and then you go back to like the original Fallen Jedi and the Schism and everything.
Right. It's actually kind of interesting how, in some ways, that has stayed almost the same though. Because I was reading the Phantom Menace novelization. Well, not reading, but listening to it a couple days. It's like outside of like timeline stuff of like 2,000 years, pretty much the same thing of like Jedi falls to the dark side, rebels. Have you ever listened to that? Because that's really interesting.
No, but that does. I have seen the excerpts. That introduces Darth Phalion or whatever, right?
Um, it doesn't give any particular names except for Darth Bane. Um, but,
Because I know that introduced the new Sith Wars. Like it gives the specific, at least as
right,
like a Jedi fell uh 1,000 years prior, specifically or whatever.
right.
Uh,
What's funny is they only say like his order only got up to 50 people, and then they all kill each other in a couple of months. So, so it's like, well, I guess those 1,000 years of Jedi Wars didn't happen.
I think that's the point with the new Sith Wars is like you have that fallen Jedi initially, and then it just spirals and it goes like it's not really a consistent war, and you get like the Brotherhood of Darkness and stuff sort of just emerge
Right.
from that.
It's exactly interesting. You should read the Phantom Menace novel by Terry Brooks. It's fascinating. Uh, but yeah, I've always found that to be very interesting as well.
Yeah, what you
Before
were
we
saying
talk,
with the
oh
dark,
yeah,
you want to still talk about the dark side has a very like literal interpretation here.
it does.
Like it's
Uh,
directly like breaking through people's force shields. Like the oppressive Sith magic has infected the will of Arca's Jedi peacekeepers, but there's more Jedi, and so that creates that like breaks through.
mhm.
Uh, or like Nomi is having trouble concentrating. Arca gets taken down at the beginning uh, by like concentrated dark side.
Yeah, it's really interesting how I love using this word. I'm using this word quite a lot. Ontological evil just exists in this particular version
Hmm.
of '90s Star Wars. Um, we're like almost like the dark side, something that you could probably find and kill, uh, or really take down. Uh, like, and I've always loved that about it as well. Um, let's talk a little about let's. I mean, we talked about a little bit. Let's talk about King Omen. So what do you make of King Omen as our quasi antagonist, and in some ways, again, I think he is sort of our a Palpatine. I don't call him Palpatine ripoff, but Palpatine inspired character, being kind of the political ruler who's just imbued with the dark side.
It's like he's Palpatine, and then he gets the rug pulled out from him
Yeah,
by the real Palpatine. He's almost like
he's a Snoke. He's like a Snoke in some ways.
yeah, and he's sort of but he's interesting. I love the visual of him being decrepit but having this like exo suit that's keeping him not just alive, but like he's walking around. But it's kind of like that walker thing that Nuke Gunray has that he doesn't need at all.
Yeah,
The spider chair.
yes,
It's like that. Like he has that, and he's or like Palpatine's
well, in canon, it's called an Omen harness. So
Oh
yeah,
God, it is. Yeah, the hydraulic arm.
yeah. So it's that some it's not, Ray Carson is definitely like to Tales of the Jedi. So no, I think that's a cool thing, especially like in later in the panel where you just kind of see him and he's like walking around the city and he's talking to the cousins, like just yep, I'm sitting on my throne in my cool little chair wearing my white robe and gold thing. He really does look like Snoke in some of these panels.
Yeah, and the way it all ends for him is just fantastic for setting stuff up. Like Freedon Nadd's ghost has been here the entire time, but we've also had Omen working in tandem with him. And then the moment Omen is just no longer important to Freedon Nadd, him leaving and them cutting the hydraulic thing, and is the description of the armature, cutting the armature that supports Omen's softened bones. Without his metal exoskeleton, Omen collapses like an Arcanian jellyfish. And it's like just the panels are horrifying.
Oh god, yeah, I've seen that. I'm like, oh god, I don't know why people want to live to be old like that. Like, oh, like, oh,
It
like
reminds
just
me of
the
like watching like a pitcher blow their arm out.
or just the fingers are all like rubbery and bent, and um, it's interesting as well. Like you almost see like the kind of the green goo coming out of his eyes. It's like the dark side just leaving his body,
Hmm.
or Freedon Nadd leaving his body. Is he like possessed by? Well, maybe not possessed. Like is Freedon Nadd's spirit like in him? Kind of
I
like.
think I think he is. I think he's making him actually able to operate. Like he's not actually as strong in the force as he thinks. None of them are.
Right.
Uh, Especially in the end when Freedon Nadd tells the twins to like take the knives, and it's like betraying him, and he shows up and he says you're still working your relentless spells. Don't you understand? Let these young Jedi go. They don't belong to you. It is your time to die. He's like, never. They belong to the dark side. I'm sorry, Omen. They don't belong to the dark side, but you do. It's honestly, you know what he is?
What?
Dr. Facilier.
Oh, you're right. He kind of is, Doctor. Gonna see his
Like,
friends on the other side.
yeah, like if Freedon Nadd straight up friends on the other side's him.
Oh God, you're right. I love that. You're right. Although weak Doctor Facilier did get his bones crushed. He's not, you know. Also, by the way, speaking of Omen, I again to talk about the dark side. I love how he's kind of like magic. The dark side is, and I mean maybe it goes too far. I don't know, but like he's like there's like a scene where he talks to the cousins, and he's like, "Here, let me help you with the book." And then all of a sudden, no, he gives him the talisman. That's right, he gives him like the talisman,
Yeah,
and then he's
yeah, so
like,
they can
"Oh,
read.
I can read the book." How do you feel about the Force in that being treated almost that magical Like, how do you feel about that? Is like that something you like?
I I like the idea that the dark side can sort of cheat to stuff.
Right.
Like there's a talisman that probably they had to kill like 1,000 people to make so that you can use
Mhm.
this thing that instead of having to bother to learn like the ancient Sith language or whatever. It's like the dark side will give all of these.
It's a cheat code.
Yeah, it's the quicker path. It's the easier path. It's also exactly what Palpatine said of like abilities some would consider to be unnatural, and it's some of it's useful, but it's always at a price or it's weak. Like that talisman, you can just destroy it or whatever, and then oops, that's lost. There goes your ability to read ancient Sith.
Yep. No, you're right. I like that as well. I like that. That's cool. I mean, I love the magical elements of the dark side. Um, you know, one thing that always kind of confused me though, when and maybe this is listening to the audiobook and maybe the comic itself is a little more clear. Is like people, I always got confused. Like, some people act as if King Owen was dead, and then other people act as if he was alive at all. And I got a little confused. Um, and then it's like, oh, you're actually alive. Like I thought you thought he was dead, and then like some people earlier were like, oh no, he's alive. Um,
Yeah, everyone. I think everyone, like Amanda, made everyone think he was dead.
mhm.
Like his daughter thought he was dead, but she sort of suspected, but she didn't realize he was evil. I guess until this point where he kidnaps everyone or tries to.
Right.
I'm not sure
Uh,
what that ruse was about. Maybe because it would be obvious that he's a dark sider. They're trying to kind of keep that on the DL.
like his wife was, because she was all weird and dark sidey too. Um, but
And maybe they just had a fight, and that's his equivalent of sleeping on the couch. Was it being in a subterranean dungeon for a decade?
yeah. But I love when we first see him. It's just like he's like in the bed, and then he stands up and grabs Master Arca
Mm.
by the throat. That's a creepy moment as well. Um, and like there's a few creepy moments with him. It's like he's got that creepy smile.
There's a
Uh,
lot of stuff with flags throughout this. Like they make note of like, oh, there's a different flag. Like there's the Free Nadd. Like the Naddists have a flag that's all over
mhm.
the first cover as well, or both covers. I really liked there's sort of a culture around like there's the flag when they're doing the funeral procession. There's flags later. Just one of those things they don't really get too much with other Star Wars stuff. I mean, the Empire has one, but
Right. It's interesting Onderon in general. Just this kind of this is gonna sound a little weird to say, and maybe you can correct me because you would be more knowledgeable about this than me. Onderon is like Gotham, and what I mean by Onderon is like Gotham is that I feel like Onderon is like a city that in some ways could be redeemed to the light, but I feel like it was almost like built in sin. So it's always going to be a little built in. Now I know Gotham has like a bunch of lore that, depending on who you ask, like depend. But I don't know. That's just kind of the vibe I get. Am I wrong?
no, that's definitely what I prefer with Gotham. It's definitely the Morrison thing as well. Of like, it's just evil at its core, or at least twisted.
Right. And Onderon, at least the city of Aziz, which I always forget in the last comic, Aziz was built before Freedon Nadd showed up, right?
Yeah, it was. It's the original civilization on the planet. I think they say like there were colonizers initially that came and or something, and they built ISIS.
Right. Um, so Aziz Aziz, the audio drama called it Aziz. Um,
See, Tom Veitch is being prophetic again. He's like, okay, there's well, it's sort of a combination, but like the Beast Riders, you have people who
right.
are imprisoned and then let out, and then you also have a thing which, like in reality, he's trying to like sort of obfuscate, but he's clearly predicting that there will be people who are arrested for extremism, uh, and they will be intentionally like released after being radicalized in prisons, and they will be released into the wilds, into the countryside, where they will form something called ISIS,
Oh
and they
god.
will then do terrorist acts. He knew about it. Tom Veitch predicted ISIS.
Oh gosh. But no, no. But my point, what I was getting at is like, you have this city that clearly had an original sin to it. Um, and Freedon Nadd's just like, he's not the cause, but he's certainly a symptom of it because like he's a crazy dark sider. Here's an already evil city. I can
Mm-hmm.
rule over it, and I'm just gonna make it worse. Um, and you now kind of have this moment where the Jedi are like the Batman, trying to make Aziz and Onderon a better place, and they can get some of it. They can make some progress, but there's always like this evil core that they can never truly break. Um, and and the Nadas are like, almost like the Joker and the silent Arkham folk of like,
You know what? They're Court
don't.
of Owls.
They're the Court of no, they're gonna they're the Court of Owls. Who are like, no, the corruption is part of Gotham. The Naddis and the dark side is part of us. We are just an evil place. We like it about us, and now it's sort of like a battle to like kind of like almost um try to expunge as much of the darkness as possible from these people because it's like it's so rooted into society. It's like you're like it's like almost like if you're born on Underworld, there's a good chance you're just kind of born evil. I'm sure that's not as far as it goes, but it's almost like that to a
It's
sense,
like the
right? But
people born into the secure, safe city have all of this evil either in their family or literal dark side influence or just the opulence of it. And then you have the people who are sent out to die in the wilds, and they are good, essentially, or at least better, even though they're sent out to be monsters, but they have like an actual sense of community or humanity to them.
right,
It's interesting.
it almost makes me wish that we could have seen like I mean, I guess technically we can have the Gloom Wars. I don't. But like maybe like what happened to this family? Um, like did the what's the princess's name? Is it Amanda?
No, Amanda's the queen.
Yeah. Who's the daughter? The daughter of these crazy parents.
Um, she's now Queen Galia.
Queen Galia. That's right. If Galia almost is able to somewhat right the wrongs of her family or not. That's actually kind of the sad thing about this little arc, and is that this is kind of the last time, for what I remember, Onderon kind of matters in the storyline. It's kind
In
of
this story, yeah,
I,
yeah.
yeah, in the Tale of the Jedi at least. I mean, I mean, actually, when you think about it though, it does seem Onderon kind of got a little better in Dark Empire. Yes, right. Empire's End. They're on Onderon. Palpatine dies on Onderon.
Well, we also
On
get KOTOR 2 has the whole Onderon plot. We have like the
well,
military coup and the monarch thing.
oh, that's right. So I guess things are still going a little cuckoo on Onderon. Um, but it does seem like in some ways they kind of have shaken off their dark side a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, by the time of Dark Empire, even though Palpatine's just there, gets to die in the same place as Freedon Nadd. Actually, no, he doesn't, but in the same city, Capon shoots him. But no, I think it's interesting that kind of Gotham-y thing of like is Aziz a fixable place? Is Gotham fixable, or is it
Is
or
that
is
the thing from Morrison's Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, where Two-Face has this random monologue after the doctor has like broken him by putting him onto like making choices based on like a three-sided die, then making choices based on drawing straws, and then now he's up to doing cards.
sounds like
And
a Robot Chicken sketch, but
yeah,
scary.
literally was the Robot Chicken sketch. Yeah, I'm now Four Face. Literally does the straw thing as well, yeah. But like they've kind of broken him with all of that, and he can't go to the bathroom without consulting the like backpack of cards, and Batman's just like, what have you, like, you monsters, what have you done to him? But Two-Face has this great line that sort of throughout the book he's sort of the narrator, or not the narrator, but like he's the voice of wisdom. He's the sane man essentially, and he has this line about like in creation there was nothing, but the 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 moon was just a giant coin that God flipped, and it landed bad side up, so we made the Earth. And it's like that's sort of the idea of Gotham. It landed bad side up, and so we made everything. And it's like that's ISIS, just like made for evil. But I mean, yeah, I'm not actually sure where, because the first arc I was sort of disappointed with the them making the like, oh, sending people away into the jungles of Duxon was sort of played as all uh
criminals and
like part of
actual
Freedon Nadd. Like
right.
Freedon Nadd was responsible for all of that. It was just political stuff. It wasn't just like mistreating prisoners. It sort of just became part of that plot. But here, yeah, we do get something somewhat different.
Right, because it does seem like it does kind of seem to me like Freedon Nadd didn't make Aziz. He just kind of found it. It's like I'll just take everything and refine it to make it worse. Maybe we're already doing bad things. I'm just gonna like build on top of it. That's like the vibe I get. It's like they were already messed up, and then just Freedon Nadd just took it to the next level. Because all these people are related to Freedon Nadd, right? Like Omen's related to Freedon Nadd. Dahlia technically related to Freedon Nadd, I guess. So it's a dark side, quote unquote, bloodline. But I guess I'll go back a little bit to the Jedi stuff a bit. What did you make of Master Arca and Ulick and his brother? Because you were talking about the Attack of the Clones parallels. This also is kind of we're seeing Ulick's aggression. It's kind of the Anakin thing. Obviously he's not. Yep. Obviously he's not killing a bunch of Tuskens. But a little more subtle than that. But he's like the war is starting to affect him in a way that I think was always kind of the idea with Anakin, like the war kind of just dwindled down any empathy the dude had.
Yeah, I like that we see him being overly aggressive, and that getting Arca captured, and Galia's like, well, you managed to win or whatever, you saved me, and Ulick has enough state of mind to be like, no, I acted on anger, I was in the wrong. It's like, it's the sort of stuff where, because the Clone Wars, Anakin doesn't have, like, Anakin kind of is justified, or the situation sort of pats him on the back, the fact that it's a war, and so the literal victory of battle means that he doesn't have to question himself when that stuff happens. There isn't the downtime to reflect. He sort of just doesn't question his speed to violence.
Right. So I guess in some ways that makes Ulick a bit more of a better Jedi than you, Anakin. Because you at least question yourself a little bit. I love seeing Master. How do you feel about Master Arca getting captured and all of that, and like a naked Jedi Masters? Thanks.
Yeah, it's nice to see someone. It's nice to see sort of an Obi-Wan get captured.
Obi-Wan, that makes it Qui-Gon. He's also a bit of Qui-Gon, I think, too. But maybe more of
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that was neat. It was interesting. Like, I would be curious if, like, Freedon Nadd wanted Master Arca on the dark side, just like, hey, another Jedi, awesome.
And he is so casual with Arca, Freedon Nadd's spirit. It's the whole time I was thinking of Eric Bana's Nero character in Star Trek 09, with him showing up on the view screen. Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero. It's just like, why are you so chill? This is weird. But it kind of works for a Sith, where he's like, I have my own machinations upon machinations. I've been dead for 10,000 years. I can chill. I
I
don't have a
guess.
rush.
Yeah, hey, even a Sith Lord can be patient. Um, yeah, I love it. I love those moments as well. And Nomi doesn't get much to do. I feel like. I mean, she gets to in the audio. She gets to kind of like rally the troops. What do you think of Nomi Sunrider?
Yeah, we get more training for her. She suddenly knows she knows battle meditation. Even well, she established it last time. I like the emphasis on the sense of belonging.
Hmm.
Like she's dealt with what's his face, her husband's death,
Right.
and she's you know confident in being a Jedi. She's sort of happy with where she is now. Osis is sort of a home, which will make things all the sadder when it gets destroyed. And you get this camaraderie among the Jedi. We started off with essentially two literal brothers and their battle brother, and a master and apprentice on in a very isolated world, and then now we're getting an actual society of Jedi,
Right.
and we're going to see that collapse. We're going to see that get ripped apart uh, immediately, and by fellow Jedi, by Theodosius Boss's own apprentice, and Ulick.
Yeah, one thing I just like about this whole saga, and I'll mention it now in case I forget next time we do this, is I really do. I've always do love kind of the cycle, right? Like it's like what Balin said. It happens again and again and again. It's like dark side always rises and the light to meets it, and Tale of the Jedi is like very much just the cycle anew. It's like the dark side's creeping up, and then it pinnacles, but then it gets defeated because of course it does. The dark side, it's got it. The Jedi win, hooray! But what do you make of the battle itself? Just like the paneling and the actual ships.
Uh, I like that we see the sort of snippets of the Republic task force, and
Hmm.
like even though we don't get much of it, we get the oh, they're having an artillery battle, and oh, there's jump troopers and stuff, and uh, the amount of time that passes gets a little confusing, or you don't realize there's a time jump until they confirm a little bit later.
Right.
But like we don't realize that they've been in the fortress for months until after they're breaking out. Uh, but yeah, I like a lot of the fighting. You definitely get a better sense of sort of Star Warsy technology here than in the
Hmm.
first arc, which makes sense since it's proper military stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, the action's more dynamic and everything. Uh, we get war machines, we get the ships. I mean, the crash at the beginning of the second issue
Hmm.
is fun. Having like a proper Republic fleet landing,
Right.
sort of seeing the and that giant drill and everything. Like this is a more technologically advanced thing than we might have believed initially.
Yeah, I do agree. I love even some of the poses. Like got Nomi and the Twilight do like sit side by side with the lightsaber and the
Hmm.
Jedi pose. You kind of get them all rushing in, like attack. Dun, 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 I love like the use of like lighting in green. A lot of the lightsabers are all green.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe it's like probably a Luke thing where it's like, oh, Jedi Knight green. Although one of them is blue, so you got that. I like the blades like kind of like a little bit thicker.
Yeah,
But that's just more of a stylized thing. But I like that. I know I like it in the it's past enough, but it's few Star Warsy enough. And then, like one of the Republic ships looks like just a full on gunboat. It looks so cool. I
hmm
like the gold. But no, it's very cool. But I got some guys in jetpacks too. Looks really cool. But no, the battle itself was really cool and epic. So one of the last points we'll talk about, and kind of we talked a little about it a little bit, but he's looming over this entire arc and the arc before it. Let's talk about Freedon Nadd. Oh, we call him Freedom Nadd with O-M. We got to pronounce O-N. Freedon Nadd. What did you make, I guess, of Freedon Nadd in this whole arc? And did his plan make sense? Like, do you think like they're doing good enough, kind of setting up what his goals are? That's actually something I've always been a little unsure about. Like, what is his plan? Just to get a body by the end? Is that what he wants?
Is he even trying to get a body?
Well, he is in the next issue. He talked about wanting.
Yeah, he is with Exar. Yeah, I am curious when he sort of picks up on Ulik. If it's when Ulik arrives, is that why he kidnaps Arca to mess with him? Or is it when he sees Ulik's resolve and everything that he decides that's the moment he realizes when he actually says it out loud is the point where he's like, oh, this guy's interesting. Especially because he is sort of driving him to the dark side, or looks just naturally being drawn to the dark side, which is something he doesn't put any effort in with Exar explicitly. Like when Exar shows up at the tomb of Naga Sadao and Freedon Nadd's there, he's like, I won't fall to the dark side. He's like, what do you mean fall? You already are. You're a Sith, dude.
Oh yeah, that's a great moment.
That whole conversation. It's like we're seeing, I don't know if Freedon Nadd has a plan here, or if it is just the cultists sort of doing stuff, or even if everyone can see him.
Well, clearly he's talking to Master Arca, so I think Master Arca can see it.
It seems like the Force users can.
That's true. Yeah, because that's sort of the thing that always confused me a little. Of like, what are his goals here? Like, is it just because he's like in one panel next issue, and we'll probably go into this deeper when we get to the next arc later. It's like I want to we shall resurrect the dark lords of the Sith. Like, does he just want followers of the dark side? Because dark side awesome, and it always needs more people. I'm the dark side #1 recruiter. Cause like what is it about Aleem and Satali's like, you're gonna continue my work? Like, is he a very, I mean, maybe not selfless is the right word, but like he's more about the cause than he is his own individualism, in a sense. Yeah, like what it's just sort of like this whole thing with Omen and whatnot. Is it just like, I just want to promote the dark side? Whatever gets the dark side on the up and up is what I'm looking for, regardless. Like corrupting Jedi, getting these weird twins, or is he like, does he see something? Is he like, is it like almost like, I know a big war is coming and I'm gonna make sure it happens, kind of a situation?
I think he doesn't so much care about like his legacy on the planet, but like his evil he wants to expand. So like the Civil War might very well not result in the Naddists winning and reestablishing the pre-Republic government, but that's not maybe his point. He just kind of wants to cause death to Jedi and spread the dark side and use that as a way to get off the world, essentially, or spread his Sith
stuff,
and find someone like Exar, break someone like Ulik. And so he doesn't care particularly about his line, but he does about his. He's still around it, so he's continuing to use his influence on stuff.
We'll talk about this next time when we do Dark Lord, but it's very interesting that next time we kind of find out that Freedon Nadd himself is a bit of a puppet to darker forces, the Sith spirits. That's always the question I guess I have, and is he aligned with those other Sith spirits, or is he just really doing his own thing, and it's just like the Sith spirits are like, oh, just let him do his own thing, and it'll work out for us at the end of the day. Like, that always kind of that's again the thing I like but find confusing is like, I guess I'm just so used to like there's one villain who kind of overarching the whole, who's like doing the Palpatine thing, And here it's like we have like a bunch of Palpatines and a bunch of Vaders. It's all kinds, and that's what I think is very cool about the villains in the story is that
Mhm.
they're kind of all over the place. But yeah. Well, I guess one more question is: do you feel like this is the last time some of these characters will feel more important than others? Because I mean, I guess we can talk about this next time, but it's sort of like I don't know. I would feel like we lose characters halfway in the story. Like I always feel like there is a cast that's throughout, but I also feel like we lose some in like some of the focus. Maybe that's me.
Yeah, I mean, we're Kay is definitely going to fall into the background for a while, as is Nomi.
Mm.
Pot definitely will. Uh, I think Ulik and Exar sort of steal the show moving forward, as well as the Cathar Jedi. She is very important, though she hasn't been introduced yet. Uh,
Master Arca dies. Spoilers.
yeah, we get Photo as a prominent figure. I think part of that is we're moving beyond the smaller scale Jedi dealing with a local issue, and we're moving into.
The big
I
stuff.
mean, the Senate gets attacked, the Chancellor gets killed.
Right.
The Republic is directly threatened. Osis burns.
It's interesting, kind of looking at this from like the big picture, and I mean, obviously, talking to the prequel trilogy, it's almost like Tales of the Jedi is like a weird duology in a weird way. Like, I feel like this is the end of the first half, and then the next one, all the way up to the Sith War, is sort of the second half
Hmm.
in a sort of a weird sense, and then Golden Age and Sith Empire are like a third half prequel. And then there's Redemption, which is not technically Tales of the Jedi, but it does continue that storyline with Ulik's final days. Did you ever read that, the Redemption one? Is it called? It's
Uh,
called Redemption, right?
yeah, I know the plot of it. I think I only have the first issue.
Because I know it's not Tom Veitch. Actually, that's one more question. I guess I'll ask. Why did Tom Veitch sort of stop after the '90s? Why didn't he continue on?
I don't think he continued writing comics. Uh, I'm pretty sure sort of he wasn't frequent with his comic writing
Mhm.
too often, and after the Star Wars stuff, he sort of stopped writing as frequently. And I was trying to look into it. I think he switched to like mainly doing art or something, or like what his initial stuff had been creatively.
Mhm.
So I guess it was just not his primary thing. Tim Anderson obviously taking over, and the Old Republic game happened, and that sort of took control for the era.
Yeah, I've always felt it was a shame that he didn't get to kind of continue and shape the kind of the EU and the wider lore into the later 2000s, where I feel like a lot of this stuff kind of gets a little bit more refined, a little bit more finer tuned. Uh, like stuff like Plagueis and Darth Bane books, obviously, and kind of tighten it up a little bit, but still, it's all coming from this. Um, I would love to see that because he's very good at this cosmic, uh, dark and light side stuff, and I always love that direction of Star Wars overall. So and of course, sadly, he passed away. When did he pass away? 2020.
Uh, about like 6 months or so before it was a few months before Tales of the Jedi the animated series got announced.
Okay, because I remember he got to see Dark Empire the movie, but he didn't. Okay, so yeah.
I don't know if
Okay.
he saw he definitely watched Force Awakens.
No, I know he was alive for that because he knew about Palpatine, so and he was happy. I could tell. But yeah, okay, but yeah, I've always wondered like But like Tom Feige has such a huge impact on kind of Star Wars lore moving forward, and yet he kind of his career stops in the '90s, while kind of everyone else kind of keeps going. And I've always wondered like why did he stop? Even Tim Zahn kept going till today.
Yeah, I mean, Zahn writes a lot of novels. I mean, he took his break from Star Wars for quite a while, and then he came back, and then he got, I think, annoyed with stuff, and then he came back. I mean, a lot of people who made major marks sort of left around the time of the Denning verse.
Right.
Stackpole did. I mean, Zahn wasn't really writing during that time either. Throughout, like, I think throughout the entirety of. I mean, he helped set up NJO, but was Zahn involved in NJO? I don't think
I
so.
think he wrote one book. I think.
He definitely
But
wasn't involved in Legacy
yeah, he was
of the
doing
Force.
he was doing like Thrawn prequels, like Outbound Flight,
Oh yeah, he did do Outbound Flight.
and Scoundrels. I think he did a solo trilogy. Was it a trilogy or just one book?
It wasn't a trilogy. It was. I don't think he did. Did he do Star Wars Scoundrels?
I know he did a Han Solo thing. Yes,
Oh yeah,
did.
he did write Scoundrels. Yeah, that was like way at the end of Legends, right?
2013, January 1st.
Yep.
One of the last few things. So yeah, so he did do that. But yeah, it's a shame Tom Feige kind of never got to continue on, even with comics. Um, uh, you know, uh, especially like it would have been cool to see him do like the Old Republic comics. Uh, those not the ones with the Mandalorian Wars, um, written by. Oh shoot, I forget who they were written by.
Oh, the Knights of the Old Republic comics.
Yeah.
The one with that was
John
right.
Jackson Miller. That's right.
Oh yeah, that was Miller. Yeah, the comics started to really involve novel writers as well as like mainstream non-Dark Horse comic writers coming over to write for Dark Horse. I mean, Ostrander I think was at Dark Horse already at that point, but like Ostrander being the guy behind Clone Wars and like all of the Clone Wars stuff, a significant chunk of Dark Times, I think, and of course Legacy is
right.
his magnum opus, and like he's such a prominent guy. Miller gets carte blanche to do a bunch of comics, kind of like what we have today, where it's like major comic writers or novel writers being given a book. It's like Timothy Zahn, and I think E.K. Johnston has done some of the comics, or it's Charles Soule and Kieran Gillen and Jason Aaron. It's
right.
This was like a unique era of having Dark Horse's stable of writers and these sort of indie folks working on Star Wars as a property.
It's also a shame too because I think I would have loved to see what he kind of did with Empire's End, which Feige did, where he's like taking his stuff and putting it into, the future. And whatever the future, I mean the lore. I mean, obviously, yes, I know. Like Korriban, Korriban makes a bunch of appearances. That's a big staple of Star Wars, of course. I think it's in Dark Lord. I think that's technically its first appearance. Because could we read it out of order? But it would have been cool to see like Tom Veitch do like Dark Horse Clone Wars thing, or like a thing set in like I don't know the post Endor era. Kind of like what happened with Jedi Academy, where you got to see Marco Ragnos kind of be the villain.
Yeah, maybe that would have been restricting though. Who knows?
That's true. It would have been interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But final thoughts, Red, on this issue, and I guess kind of everything we read up to here so far. Tales of the Jedi. Final thoughts.
Great stuff as always, and heading into the real collapse of stuff. We're getting into the proper war in Star Wars.
Right. This is the Revenge of the Sith is coming. If Revenge of the Sith was like a two-parter, kind of. Because the war technically didn't happen until the issues after that. But we are gonna hopefully next time talk about Dark Lords of the Sith, which is my favorite. So spoilers already. That's my favorite. This will be Convite teaming up with Kevin J. Anderson, I believe. Co-writing it, I believe, if I'm correct. So look forward to that, folks. But with that, I believe we shall begin to wrap things up for this week. Red, thank you for joining me for another Legends Look Back.
Mm-hmm.
I hope one day we should definitely do a novel if we have time and I have energy. I will one day get Splinter of the Mind's Eye. I hope it's on Audible. I'd love to listen to that. I don't know if it is. But I hope it is. I hope it's not abridged. Oh, by the way, have you gotten any of the new audiobooks for like some of the Legends revised stuff? Because I know there's a bunch of X-Wing stuff that's
not yet
unabridged. I'm interested in doing it one day. Okay, well, if you ever do, let me know. But thank you again for joining me. And thank you, everybody. Of course, you can follow me at JID2021. Get JID2021 on Twitter. Red, do you have any socials you wanna plug? Right.
I haven't really been doing much on my socials.
That's fair. And of course, you can follow Matthew at NEUG485 and NEUG485. Of course, you can always follow us at the Ion Canon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD. And next week we haven't decided yet. We're still getting our schedules worked out, but hopefully everything will work. We'll continue with the podcast. Until next time, everybody, thank you, and let's blow this thing and head home.